Good afternoon. Thank you for joining our virtual program, Retirement Plan Distributions, What You Need to Know and Understanding Your 401k When You Change Jobs. My name is Deborah Carter. I am a librarian at the San Marcos Public Library, and we are very grateful to have two experts on this topic join us to answer our questions. We have Trish Wilder, LPL Financial Advisor, and Shalana Poole, certified planner, financial planner, and LPL financial advisor with Flashpoint Financial Services. And I see on the website that Flashpoint Financial Services has 30 years of combined experience in the financial services industry to define and spark our financial journeys. So I'm super stoked that you guys are here with us, and definitely very grateful because this is a knowledge that a lot of people don't have. Even if we are lucky enough to have a 401k, often we don't know anything about it, especially when we're in transitions and we need to make decisions. So I am going to turn it over to you to give us a better understanding about who you are and Flashpoint Financial, and to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much.
Deborah, thank you so much. This is amazing. Welcome to all of the participants. We're very excited to be sharing this with you and welcome your questions. As we move through, please feel free to write down your questions too. Remember that everything we talk about today is not meant to be advice for those participants on this Zoom, but if you have something that is in detail or you think resonates with you, we can certainly have a conversation afterwards. So one of the things Trish Wilder, my passion is for education, and I don't want people to have the same experience I had when I was a young investor, which was not great. So we want to make sure that anybody that we work with or share resources with has a really good experience. Shalana, what about you?
Yes, as mentioned, we have about 30 years combined between us of experience in the financial services industry and giving financial advice across the board. Our deepest passion is education and making sure that our clients understand what they don't know and how it impacts them now and in the future. Flashpoint Financial Services is at its core the pathway to help spark your financial journey wherever you are in that particular timeline. So we have a desire to make sure that what happened to us in the past doesn't happen to those going forward, and that you are prepared to plan your life accordingly. Excited to be here. Thank you.
Yes, we're both excited to be here. Fair disclosure, because we can work from home and are today during this Zoom, as we have some Zoom meetings, is if I start laughing, well, when you live with cats, sometimes they're comedic and you don't see them on camera, but I can see them. So just fair disclosure about that. So thanks so much. And Deborah, you brought up a great point too, which is you're not even sure what your 401k currently does for you and not what's in it and how it may benefit you. So right off the bat, we can help with that. So if you have questions or you're not sure, or like me, when I was a very young investor before I got into this financial services industry, I could never get a hold of the 401k plan administrator to ask questions. So please ask those questions, write them down, or share them with us after the presentation as well. We'd love to get to know you better. So if you want to share your contact information with us, that way we can communicate. We'll be happy to do that as well. Well, let's jump right in. So what happens to my 401k after I leave my job? Or I haven't left a job, but I'm thinking about it. Let's jump right in. And the topics we'll be exploring today, as you can see up on the screen. And also, if you can't hear me, let me know. Hopefully I'm coming in loud and clear. Good? Okay. So we're going to talk about some tax implications. Remember, you have 4 choices when you leave a job. You can leave it, roll it, cash it out, or transfer it. So that's one of the options not, but you can transfer it as well. So we want to talk about those important considerations and then the benefits of using a financial professional or a tax professional. So also remember, we're not tax professionals, we're not lawyers, but we know some really good ones. So we always consult with them. We may ask you to consult with them, or we may all of us consult together as well for your situation. So remember, there are some tax implications for plan distributions. These types of plans, these 401k plans, also 403b, 403a, 457. Remember, all of these numbers and letters that we're kind of going over today, they're simply tax code. So congratulate yourself that you know some tax code, because that's where they come from. They're really an incentive for saving, and they help to make your life better as you contribute to them, and also as your company may contribute to them as well, called an employer match or profit sharing. So again, we're going to talk about what happens when you leave, but we also want to make sure we get you to retirement and that you're comfortable with that. So remember, these distributions, whether it's a rollover, whether it's a transfer, am I taking a little money out because I needed a hardship withdrawal, all things you can talk about with your plan administrator for a 401k or a business retirement plan. This is important because remember, there are some standard income tax for traditional plan distributions. Roth 401ks or Roth IRAs have a little bit different. Oh, and we forgot to mention simple IRAs, SEP IRAs. Maybe you're a business owner who's joining us today, and maybe you have a simple IRA or a SEP IRA set up. These are all defined contribution plans. You're giving to these plans on a tax deferred basis, which means you're not paying taxes now. You're lowering your taxable rate at that, or your taxable, you're lowering your taxable situation when you do that, so that it can grow tax deferred, so you deferred pay on it later. Remember also, after age 59 and a half in these types of plans, you can, at penalty free, take distributions. And then at age 72, now this changed at the beginning of last year with the Secure Act, people are working longer. So their money is able to grow longer. So now, instead of taking those, what we call required minimum distributions or RMDs, you get to let that money grow longer. And you must start taking required minimum distributions at age 72 in most cases. Now, an early withdrawal, we really want to talk about that before you take any distributions. So remember, if you're already working with a financial professional, please talk to them before you take a withdrawal from your 401k or business retirement plan, because a 10% penalty could apply for those that are 59 and a half or less, unless there are some qualifying circumstances. Now, there are a few qualifying circumstances. We're not going to talk about them all today. Some of them are listed here: death and disability, and some qualifying medical expenses if you leave your job after 55. If you're going through a domestic restructuring, that's what a qualified domestic relations order or quadro does. Also, if you were purchasing a home, that's actually not for a first-time home buyer. That's actually not on here, but one that I know. And qualifying higher education expenses, and then substantially equal payments. So there's a lot of different nuances with these penalty exceptions. Again, we want to help you with that, help you understand it, but your CPA or a tax professional can help you with that as well. Hope you're writing down your questions, because there's a lot we're unpacking. So we want you to weigh your options, which is to talk to someone who is an expert in this field. So do you keep your money in your savings company's plan? Do you transfer it to a new employer? Do you move it to an IRA, which is known as a rollover, or you take it out in cash? Well, different situations will require that. You could actually do a few of these things together. You don't have to do one. You could combine some of them, and weighing that option is something that's important. So we want to help you with that, but these are some of the options that you can do. So, well, should we stay with the employer's plan? And there's no immediate tax impact if you do that. You'll continue to benefit from that potential tax deferred growth, But it's really important, and you'll maintain the control over that, but it's really important that not all plans are the same. Just a quick note that even though a 401k operates much the same way, each company's plan has some different details within the plan that may not be like another employer's plan. So it's important to understand that through the summary plan description. That is not something that's listed in this presentation today, but it should be available to you at your employer. You should have access to that as well. If you want to know more information about what a summary plan description does, let us know. But that's basically, it governs the 401k plan and how it operates within the IRS guidelines. So you have the option to move your money if that's what you decide. We're going to talk about that. So you've gotten a new job. Now we want to review your rollover options. So rollovers preserve the tax advantages, which means if I take it out of my retirement plan at my 401k and I put it into an IRA, it's called a rollover. If I transfer it, it's a direct transfer. So there are no income tax payments required when you transfer it to a new plan, and you're still going to have control over this investment decisions. And then the tax deferments, which means anything I put in there, anything that grows, I don't have to pay on it till I take it out at some point. If we roll over to an IRA, again, no taxes are due. Here is a good idea about why that might be in your situation. For instance, if you have a wider array of investment opportunities to you, that might be a good reason to roll over. But again, your situation is different than anybody else's, so we want to make sure you're doing what's best for you. If you transfer it to the new 401k, you may have limited options, and not all 401ks have the same type of investments in them. So we want to understand them. And while we're not going to talk about any specific investments today, it is important to understand how those investments benefit you. Also, if you do roll it over to an IRA, required minimum distributions are going to start at age 72. Now, they will not start in a 401k at age 72 if you're still working and contributing, but they will start in your IRA. So again, there are different options for how you can take distributions from an IRA as well. We'll talk about those shortly. So a lump sum distribution, is it a good idea or not? Because you're going to owe taxes on the entire thing. So if you take $100,000 out, you've basically just paid yourself $100,000 of income, and the IRS is going to want their share because you haven't paid taxes on it yet. So you also may face a 10% penalty, and then your retirement goals could be highly jeopardized. So let's think about that and what might be the best solution for yourself. Again, have that conversation with your tax professional. This is important because I know a lot of people say, well, yeah, I'm just going to buy this new car, or I'm going to do this because I have all this money in my 401k. Well, let's talk about some other options before we reach for our retirement bucket, because we cannot finance our retirement like we can finance a car, or we can finance school. Retirement is retirement. And so we want to make sure we don't run out of money. So as you're nearing retirement, you want to consider three things: your age and the calculations for your required minimum distributions. So this is where a financial professional and a CPA will come in handy. Because if you've grown your 401k to a pretty large amount, well, we want to think about the taxes, how that could affect you possibly in Social Security as well. Because remember, your Social Security benefits could be minimized because of what you have to take, depending on how early you take distributions. So we want to remember that and come up with a game plan. And considering installment payments, I don't want to take that distribution all at one time. Considering Roth conversions, which I'm not going to go into in detail, but another option. How do I do that? Considering annuities to create an income stream, and then that guidance from this financial professional. So here are the ABCs of RMDs. Sometimes you'll hear them called MRDs as well. The new RMD age, as I mentioned, is 72. So it used to be 70 and a half. So if you reached RMD age, you're already doing that. Some plans allow the RMD delays, again, from a 401k if you're still working. Roth IRAs do not require these withdrawals. And the reason for that is because they're coming out with no taxes. You have pretty much given your money to that Roth IRA on an after-tax basis. You've paid for that. But we're going to talk about Roths a little more in detail in just a moment. So taking the distribution installments could be an idea. And we typically prefer, some people typically prefer this method because they're made at regular intervals and they can fit your needs, but we can spread the tax payment requirements over time. So again, work with your financial professional to understand how that can benefit you, and then take your distributions. And the other thing is, we haven't even talked about taking these distributions if you inherit an IRA or a 401k. There are some rules about that that are new. So if you have been through that, please let us know so we can help you understand. It is so much to unpack right now, and we feel like there's a lot of information, but we want to make sure that you have it, which is why we do these types of workshops. So again, I mentioned annuities as a payout. This is just simply a contract that you provide regular income, and then it is standard in some plans. For instance, if I work for as a teacher, I could simply take my retirement that I've put away in installments coming out of something called an annuity. And there are many companies that help with that, but you also have choices with that. So teachers, let us know, we can help you. Sir, are you feeling overwhelmed yet? It's a lot. So before I started working with Shalana, before we became a team, before we were ever in this industry, we too were overwhelmed because it's very complex and confusing. Tax laws are changing, the rules about ages for these distributions are changing. So we want to help with that as well. You reach out to professional organizations. Also, if you're interviewing different financial professionals, interview more than one. I've actually been known to add questions as I've been interviewed and say, hey, I didn't hear you ask a specific question. Could I add a question to your list that I think is important in your situation to ask the next professional that you interview? And then really ask those potential candidates kind of what their beliefs are, because you're protecting something that you worked hard for, and we want to help protect that and understand what money means to you, how it makes you feel. This is important, and it's a safe space that you should feel to be in. And I've been afraid to ask questions like when I go to a doctor's visit. So now we're talking about your financial health. So think about that. Like, I feel like, oh, if I ask them this question, they might make me feel like I should have already known that. No, ask the question because it's important. This is your future that we want to help spark. So we want to know. So now we've come to the question and answer, but before we talk about that, I just want to talk about one more thing. There is a type of distribution that you can do, which may be helpful if you do a 401k rollover to a traditional IRA. That's called a qualified charitable distribution. So did you know that if you have to take money out, your distribution from your IRA, when you reach RMD age, you have to be at the RMD age, which is age 72. And you said, well, hey, I like to give to my church because it's a nonprofit, right? Now you can do that. So it's become very popular for folks to say, I'm gonna tithe to my church and make a huge donation once a year to them. Or I'm gonna tithe to my favorite nonprofit. But remember, if you do that, it cannot be done from a 401k. It must be done from an IRA. And any distribution monies have to be made payable directly to that nonprofit. So it's another idea for us to help give back if you want to give back. But there are some clients like, I don't want anybody else to have it but me. My kids ain't getting it, so it's all mine. We can help with that too. But talk to your financial professional about that so you do understand the different distribution options that you have as well. So with that said, Shalana, what do you think? Anything else to add? You're on mute.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I think you did a phenomenal job, and to have covered so much information in this time frame, you really did unpack a lot of good top level data that is wonderful and useful for people that have 401ks or in a transitionary point. And I did see your question in regarding your home, and I think Trish may have hit it a little bit, but just to reiterate, if you are leaving your job and trying to figure out what to do with that 401k, again, not having benefits at the next job, then what we could do is be very mindful of the fact of pulling all the money out, because whatever you pull out will still be taxable for whatever reason. The IRS will want their portion. However, there may be an option that the penalty goes away, especially if you're under the age of 59 and a half. One thing I noticed as well is if you stay with your existing 401k, which is an option for you to leave your funds in that 401k, I would highly encourage you to keep your address up to date with that particular company and provider, because companies change who they use as their 401k provider all the time. It's sporadic. Sometimes it's on a certain 3-5 year time frame. And if you're not getting the information that your company has changed 401k providers, then you could get lost in the shuffle. In the many years that I've done this, I've literally had to become the Columbo of the financial services industry in order to go find someone's retirement plan. So it's really important to note that if you're staying with your existing plan company or whoever you're with, always keep your address up to date with all your financial institutions. Other than that,
so true, because updating your beneficiaries is so important. Can't
Yes.
tell you how many articles I've read where people are on a second or third marriage and they forgot to update beneficiaries, and then the ex-wife is getting all of the 401k, and now we're trying to unpack that with and then we become therapists at that point. So please do that. That is so important. There's checklists that you can follow. Say, hey, I'm leaving my job, or I'm going through a life event, having children, and by the way, this isn't even have some type of an estate plan. That is so important, especially in any state of Texas, to have an estate plan and have that conversation too with an estate attorney, because we're not attorneys, but we do believe in having a plan as well.
That's right.
Absolutely. What other questions? Well, Anne, you're welcome. Thank you so much. Again, we unpacked a lot. Yes, there are a lot of things to talk about this with what's going on today, and then understanding with some of the changing laws. And as Shalana mentioned too, when the plan administrator changes, that can be important. And then understanding the difference in some of the plans themselves. Well, I'm moving from a big company that has a 401k to now one with a simple IRA, which is still a business retirement plan. How does that benefit me, and can I still do that and participate? So,
and the rules are different around the different types of plan. So for anyone out there, if you do want us to talk to you directly about your specific situation, we are very happy to do that. We do not charge a consultation fee. I think I talk too much in order to do that. So if you would like, give us your information, reach out to us. I don't think we have our contact information readily available, but we'll be happy to share that with you.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and if somebody's watching this video at home and they want to reach out to Trish or Shalana, you're always welcome to message the library and we can relay that information. But you have a website, the Flashpoint Financial website. So that's something that you can Google, and the contact information is there on the website too, right?
It is.
It is flashpointfinancialservices.com. Our phone number is 512-822-7524. You could reach either myself or Trish from that number. Again, I'll say it, 512-822-7524. And our website is flashpointfinancialservices.com.
Yeah. And believe us, we've been through some of the same things that all of the participants have been through. So not just our knowledge in the industry, but from personal as well. So we're going to definitely help in that arena.
Well, thank you, Anne, for your question. And Mark, you've been quiet, but I know sometimes we just enjoy listening because we're not quite ready to. Sometimes we don't even know what questions we have. I think that that's where I am personally. So I appreciate both of you being here today, and I will stop this recording, and thank you everyone at home for tuning in to the library's YouTube channel, and we'll take any questions after the video. Thanks again.
Thank you.